I am the most envied courtesan in the entire capital, all because I bear a 70% resemblance to the crown princess. I was bought for a fortune on the very night I debuted, clutching the heavy silver ingots. I rode in the sedan chair, both thrilled and nervous. I secretly vowed that even if my patron turned out to be a 60-year-old wreck of a man, I would still plant affectionate kisses on him without hesitation, as long as I can get the deed of servitude and secure my freedom. I'm willing to do anything, but when I saw the prisoners in the cell, incontinent and raving mad, I turned around and wanted to leave immediately. I'm sorry, I overestimated myself after all. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. I crouched in the corner, reluctantly caressing each silver ingot. Then, suppressing my pain, I glanced at that madman again. Ever since I entered, he's been giggling foolishly, incessantly calling out to me, Ayao, Ayao. He was calling for Zhao Yunyao, once the most noble maiden, now the crown princess. A fool, still dreaming of noble maidens. I rolled my eyes at him and scoffed. Stop dreaming, you've only got this lowly courtesan. I wonder what crime this person committed to be locked in this pitch-black prison, filthy and foul-smelling, with disheveled hair obscuring their face. A jailer outside knocked on the door and urged, hurry up. The noble didn't buy you to stand there daydreaming, how the lowly bully when backed by the powerful. What's the rush? A girl needs to prepare herself mentally, you know. Gritting my teeth, I pulled out a silver ingot and handed it to the jailer. I said ingratiatingly, Big brother, could you trouble yourself to fetch 2 buckets of hot water? As the jailer took the silver, his rough, grimy hand brushed against the back of mine. I gave him a coquettish glance. He smacked his lips and chuckled. TSK, just the #1 beauty of Qianxiang Tower. What a pity people's fates differ. You do resemble Miss Zhao quite a bit, but she's already become the lofty crown princess, while you're stuck serving this mad 5th prince, a lowly wench paired with a fool. TSK, a perfect match. 5th prince. I froze, turning to look at the man crouched in the corner, picking at the wall. This filthy, stinking madman was actually the radiant and noble 5th prince. I recalled the Lantern Festival 2 years ago, when the 5th prince released sky lanterns from the city wall. He wore moon-white brocade robes with wide sleeves, his ink-black hair flowing like a jade gentleman. With just a faint smile directed at the woman beside him, he captivated half the capital. At that time, I watched him from beneath the wall. I overheard my sister murmuring dreamily, if I could sleep with the 5th prince just once, I'd die happy. What had happened in the palace? How had he fallen to such a state? The jailer brought 2 buckets of water and said impatiently, let me tell you, if you, this famous courtesan, still can't make the 5th prince act like a man, you'll be dragged out and killed soon. 3 have already died before you. As he spoke, he glanced at the wall. I immediately understood someone was watching us through a hidden peephole. I wet a cloth to wash the 5th prince's face. He took my hand and said tenderly, Ayao, you came to see me. I instantly flared up and pinched the back of his hand hard. Open your damn eyes wide. I'm not your sweetheart. He gasped in pain, blinked pitifully, and stared at me quietly. I stripped off his outer robe but hesitated before leaving him his undergarments. Oh, let's all be decent about this. After using up 2 buckets of water, he finally looked somewhat clean. I pinned him against the corner of the wall, where we could avoid prying eyes. I bit his lip and mumbled, 5th prince. I don't know if you're truly mad or just pretending, but I want to live, so forgive my offense. He pressed himself tightly against the wall, as if desperate to put distance between us. I yanked down his pants and slipped my hand inside. With the tip of my tongue, I pushed out a pill and fed it into his throat. Good thing I came prepared. I was afraid that if I ended up facing a 60-year-old man, I wouldn't perform well, so I prepared some medicine in advance. Before long, he became aroused. His hands gripped my waist tightly. I bit his shoulder in pain. Suddenly, many playful laughter came from outside. It seems 5th brother has truly gone mad. Ah, so it wasn't that he couldn't perform, he could only perform for the crown princess's face. Carrying on like this in bed. What difference is there from wild beasts? Is this still our lofty 5th brother? I covered the 5th prince's ears to shield him from those foul words, yet suddenly he rolled over, shielding me instead. From outside came a voice thick with disgust. He's already gone mad. Must you stoop so low?" The voice was noble and cold. I heard those people immediately stop their nonsense. Over the fifth prince's shoulder, I saw a noble and beautiful woman standing outside. She was the crown princess, Zhao Yuniao. They all say I bear a 70% resemblance to her, but at this first meeting, I realized it was all nonsense. She was like a goddess on high, while I was as lowly as wild grass in the mud. When our eyes met, I let out an exaggerated moan. The crown princess covered her nose and mouth with a handkerchief in disgust, turned around, and said, "This farce has gone on long enough. I was about to be dragged out and executed. Those turtle-egg bastards, those highborn scum who won't have assholes in their next lives. After using me up, they want to kill me." I cursed through gritted teeth, weeping and screaming as I damned their ancestors to the 18th generation. Just as the blade pressed against my throat, the fifth prince came charging out of nowhere. He was beaten black and blue, looking utterly disheveled. The fifth prince saw me, pushed aside the jailer holding the knife, and hugged me tightly. Having narrowly escaped death, I burst into uncontrollable sobs, pounding on his back. The fifth prince gently stroked my hair and said with a tender smile, Ayao, don't be afraid now, be good." I leaned against his warm chest, my cold and stiff body gradually thawing. I'm alive. I grabbed his sleeve to wipe away my tears and snot. Ayao it is. Then, as long as I can survive, I wouldn't just agree to be the crown princess's double, I'd even be willing to play his mother if needed. I imitated the crown princess's demeanor, speaking with cold elegance. "You big fool, from now on, I am Zhao Yuniao. I'm your most beloved woman, so you'd better treat me well, understand?" Who would have thought the fifth prince was no longer a fool? He shook off my hand and snapped, "You're not Ayao." The fifth prince turned and left without hesitation. Seeing the prison guards glaring fiercely, I dared not stay behind and hurried to catch up with him. I kept muttering incessantly behind him. "I am Ayao, have you forgotten? Just now in the prison cell, we were kissing so passionately we couldn't bear to part. I am your wife." The fifth prince finally stopped in his tracks. He turned around and took my hand, saying earnestly, "Very well, my wife, we're leaving the prison." I hurried to retrieve the silver I'd left in the cell. To my surprise, the jailer was holding that bag of silver. He kicked me to the ground and sneered, "What kind of daylight dream are you having?" Suppressing the pain in my chest, I forced a charming smile and rose, then nestled into the jailer's arms. In a sweet, pleading voice, I said, "Big brother Tilda, have a heart. A weak woman like me, how can I survive out there without a little silver to my name?" The jailer rubbed my waist, baring his yellowed teeth in a lecherous grin. "Silver, I can give you, but I'd also like to taste what a fifth prince's woman feels like." "Tilda, you sounded so sweet just now. Silver is important. Silver is very important. Endure what you must endure." Damn that dog-fathered turtle bastard. I can't take it anymore. I pulled out the sharp hairpin from my head and pressed it against his neck, snarling, "At worst, it's just death. I serve the fifth prince. After all, if I kill you, the worst I'll get is a beating." The jailer shoved the silver into my arms and spat on the ground, cursing, "Damn it, crazy woman. Here, take it." I clutched the silver and dragged the fifth prince away with me. Only after stepping outside did I realize my palms were drenched in sweat. My body felt weak, my legs like jelly, as I urged the prince, "Go, let's get out of this damned place. Once you enter this cursed place, there's no hope left for your entire life." I was locked up with the fifth prince in a remote palace. Hearing the old eunuch mutter a few words nearly scared me to death. I thought we were just being moved from one haunted place to another. Never expected this. Never in my wildest dreams. This is no ghostly place. It's clearly a celestial paradise. I walked around the hall, utterly dumbfounded. Good heavens above, look at this sandalwood bed, the carvings, the craftsmanship. Look at this Suzhou embroidery bed curtain, the patterns, the fabric. There are several fruit trees planted outside. Many rare and precious flowers are cultivated here, yet all appear neglected, growing both luxuriantly and untamed. The fifth prince sat on the steps, lost in thought. I walked over and nudged his calf with my foot, saying sourly, "You nobles, even when you're down on your luck, you still live so well, living in such a spacious place. When I was in the brothel, I shared one large bed with 5 or 6 sisters. I didn't dare to turn over in bed at night. Afraid I might accidentally kiss someone else's mouth, there was a commotion outside. I pressed my ear to listen. It turned out someone had come to deliver something. The fifth prince has gone completely mad. The crown princess is truly kind-hearted, having us deliver some of fifth prince's old belongings. Her Majesty the Empress passed away from illness recently, yet His Majesty didn't even glance her way. His attention remains entirely fixed on the noble consort. After all, the Empress came from humble origins. Her death conveniently vacates the position for the noble consort. Hearing this, I stole a glance at fifth prince. He deliberately kicked the door. The noise outside immediately ceased. The palace maids left the items outside the door, and I took a look. Wow, quite a lot. Bedding, clothes, books. I glanced at the pile of books and turned to complain. Is your old flame an idiot or what? Who sends books at a time like this? I casually tossed those books into a corner and kept rummaging. Damn it. Why not give something valuable? I grumbled. Do all you palace people grow up drinking dew? The fifth prince pointed at the bag on the table and said foolishly, Madam has silver. Holding the silver tightly, I said warily, don't even dream about it. I'll never spend money on a man in this lifetime. The fifth prince forcibly snatched a silver ingot from me, making me so angry I wanted to punch him. But alas, the difference in our strength was too great. With one hand holding my head at bay and the other pointing at my chest, the fifth prince said earnestly, Madam, injured, use silver to buy medicine. At least this fool has some conscience. Knowing to care about my injury, of course I didn't spend my own silver to buy medicine. Instead, I traded those worthless books for bruise ointment. The eunuch who exchanged medicine with me grinned from ear to ear. Who knows how much those books were really worth? They say it's some rare, priceless edition that money can't buy. Take the medicine back. The fifth prince sat by the bedside, looking rather displeased with his head lowered. Ah. Just look at these descendants of dragons and phoenixes, they're truly different. He's gone mad, still trying to snatch books from me. Can that thing fill your stomach? I ignored him, took off my clothes and sat on the bed to tend to my wounds. There were abrasions on both my back and chest. The fifth prince listened to my hissing sounds and stopped sulking. He was a refined man who actually knew to wash his hands before applying medicine to me. We sat facing each other inside the tent. With lowered eyes, he applied ointment to my chest, but his face grew increasingly red. I watched his meek and submissive little look, which stirred up a bellyful of wicked fire in me. His hand lingered at the edge of the bellaband. Not daring to go further, I deliberately pressed closer, wrapped my arms around his neck, and nibbled his ear. Big enough, white enough. At these words, his breathing grew noticeably heavier. I said proudly, Me. All the sisters in the brothel used to say that my body is so alluring, no man could walk away once he laid eyes on me. Alas, confined in this palace, there's nothing to do day after day. The more I look at the fifth prince, the more I think he's truly handsome. As for me, having a face so similar to the crown princess's, who knows how much trouble it'll bring me in the future. Better make the most of it with the fifth prince before some other scoundrel ruins me. I realized in prison, this man has the goods. But the fool had no sense of fun. Lifting the curtain to leave, I untied my undergarment and flung it at his face. Fuming, I'm willing to give myself to an idiot like you. What are you running for? If you leave, I'll just call a guard to warm my bed. The fifth prince pinched my peach-colored bellaband, turned to look at me, and said with both embarrassment and grievance, Madam, it hurts. Only then did I realize he was referring to that time in the prison. Fool. The gloom in my heart instantly dissipated. At that moment, with so many people watching, though I felt a bit uncomfortable, I deliberately exaggerated my cries. I pulled him in and coaxed him, if you kiss me, it won't hurt anymore. Alas, the fifth prince is such a diligent learner. He masters whatever is taught and can even apply his knowledge creatively. I was so exhausted I couldn't even lift a finger, yet he still knew to bring water to wash me. Before sleep, he held me in his arms, gently stroking my hair. That kind of tenderness made me feel like I was being treated as something precious. My heart softened a little, and I patted his back as I whispered, My name is Zheng Yao, the yarrow from a graceful and virtuous maiden. From now on, you're not allowed to get my name wrong. The fifth prince lowered his head to nuzzle against my cheek, his voice gentle as he said, Ayaro's voice is so sweet. Even if you call me a fool, I'd still love to hear it. Fool. He really knows how to sweet talk. I drifted off to sleep, feeling utterly pleased. Living here with this fool doesn't seem so bad after all. Life in the cold palace wasn't peaceful every single day. Some idle folks would always loiter by the gate, craning their necks to see just how foolish the fifth prince really was. Fortunately, guards kept watch at the entrance, preventing them from entering. Otherwise, those sycophants who trample on the weak and fawn over the powerful would surely have made the fifth prince crawl on all fours, barking like a dog. Look, someone's barking like a dog outside. They say the fifth prince has gone mad. If we give him meat, will he bark like a dog? Who knows? Why don't you call him out? Hearing this, I was boiling with anger. She flung a basin of dirty water straight at the man. The man roared in fury. You wretched woman, how dare you splash me? Do you have any idea who I am? I do. I recognized him at first glance. He was the one who'd watched the spectacle outside the imperial prison with the most relish. He, look at how the fifth prince's face flushed with excitement when we were intimate. Who's the real beast here? I wonder, feigning innocence. I put on a pitiful yet coquettish expression and said sweetly, oh dear, young master, it was my fault for not noticing you. I walked over, pulling out a handkerchief to wipe his face. That shameless bastard tried to grope my hand when he had the chance. I immediately retreated back inside the doorway. His hand grasped at empty air, and he actually looked somewhat disappointed. It wasn't fifth prince's misfortune he'd come to see. He was clearly here for me. He actually dared to come inside to grab me. The guards coldly blocked them. Someone nearby tugged at him. If the Empress finds out we came here, she'll surely scold us. Don't stir up trouble, let's go quickly. Leaning against the doorframe, I said reluctantly, young master, won't you leave me a keepsake? Come visit me again when you're free, Tilda. He actually tore off a piece of jade pendant and tossed it to me from afar. Curious, I asked the guard, who is that man? How can he be so arrogant? The guard replied expressionlessly, the Empress's nephew, Qi Zhen. The Empress he spoke of was none other than the former imperial consort. Not long ago, the imperial consort was enfeoffed as Empress, with a grand ceremony to mark the occasion. Even in our secluded palace, we could hear the harmonious sounds of ceremonial music. They say everyone received rewards. Even the sullen eunuch who delivers our meals was beaming with joy that day. If you ask me, there's not much difference between this palace and our Tianxiang Tower. They must exert all their charms to win men's favor and swindle their silver. I happily carried the jade pendant back to my room. The fifth prince was sitting at the table carving wood. I sat in his lap and asked him, silly, can you tell me what characters are written on this? The fifth prince turned his face away, refusing to look. He wouldn't even let me hug him, gently pushing me away. I wrapped my arms around his neck and giggled. Are you jealous? It was just an act. I only wanted to trick some benefits out of him. Look, with just a few words, he gave me this jade pendant. The fifth prince pursed his lips and said, Ayao, this isn't right. His expression was very serious. He disapproved of my actions. If he were still the clear-headed fifth prince, he would surely have scolded me for being shameless. Even in his foolish state, his heart remained noble. A few nights with someone like him, and I'd forget my place, thinking our hearts could truly connect. The fool here was always me. After living in this palace for over 3 months, I'd grown somewhat familiar with the eunuchs and maids who delivered meals. Even the gate guards would occasionally exchange a few words with me. From their words, I could vaguely piece together an image of the fifth prince. Born noble and extraordinarily intelligent, he was truly a gentleman of perfect virtue. The fifth prince was flawless. Even if he were mad or foolish, the palace maids and eunuchs couldn't bring themselves to speak ill of him. One maid even wiped away tears as she whispered, if we must find fault with the fifth prince, it's that he's too kind-hearted. In this palace, kind souls don't live long. He would show compassion even to a suffering sparrow. He raised the servants' wages and reduced cruel punishments in the palace. In court affairs, he was meticulous and flawless, earning universal praise, gifted in both literary and martial arts, a prodigious talent. Yet he ended up in such a state. It's said that when he was 3 years old, a great master once wished to guide him into the Buddhist path. He had also traveled far and wide, a man of true compassion. I lowered my head, idly playing with that exquisite jade pendant. I thought to myself, someone like him, even if he fell into ruin, would surely have his day of rising again. I'd better make plans for myself early. We certainly couldn't wait for him to become prosperous again, only to be reduced to a worthless abandoned woman. After being confined in the cold palace for over half a year, the Empress suddenly issued an edict ordering our relocation to Danxia Palace. I heard it was originally the fifth prince's former residence. That was my first time seeing the Empress. She was nearing 40, yet exuded extraordinary beauty and nobility. Kneeling on the ground, I stole glances at her. Catching sight of her hair adorned with exquisite jewels, radiating opulence, lowering my head, I noticed the Empress's shoes were embroidered with golden threads, each embellished with pearls the size of thumbs. Good heavens, this was sheer extravagance. If I ever return to Qianxiang Pavilion in the future and tell these stories to my sisters, they'll surely die of envy. The Empress took the fifth prince's hand and sighed, "Alas, though your mother's virtue was lacking. Why should you be implicated?" I pleaded with His Majesty for a long time until his anger subsided, and only then were you released. From now on, you may live peacefully in Danxia Palace, and I shall take care of everything for you. The fifth prince, simple-minded as he was, didn't even know how to respond and actually drooled onto the Empress's arm. I looked up just in time to see the Empress's contorted face, and my heart blossomed with joy. Someone coughed behind me and said, "Mother, it's stuffy in here. I'll take a walk outside." As he left, he kicked me. I quietly slipped away too. I stepped outside and began searching around, passing by the rockery. I was suddenly pulled behind it. The Crown Prince laughed heartily at my startled expression. "Look at you, like a thieving kitten, what are you so afraid of?" I pounded his chest playfully and pouted. If others were to find out, how could I ever show my face again? Pinching my cheek, the prince teased, You, when you were seducing me, I didn't see any fear then." I pretended to be bashful, lowering my head while secretly rolling my eyes. What a load of horseshit. That day, I was just feeling stifled in the cold palace and went for a stroll in the small garden to clear my mind. Who would have thought that when I turned my head, I'd see the Crown Prince watching me from afar? His flamboyant yellow outfit made his identity obvious to everyone. That gaze of his was so intense, it practically undressed me on the spot. Blushing with a mix of embarrassment and anger, I glared at him. "You lecher, one more look and I'll gouge your eyes out." I turned and ran, deliberately leaving my handkerchief behind. Over time, he would often wait for me in that little garden. When he confessed he was the Crown Prince, I pretended to be shocked and frightened. Trembling, I stammered, "Your Highness, this humble servant." As I spoke, tears began to stream down my face. The Crown Prince coaxed me. "Sweetheart, don't be afraid. From now on, we'll still be like this." I'm not a fool, of course. I didn't let him coax me into bed. A man like the Crown Prince needs to be teased, kept waiting, and scolded. Sure enough, my days in the cold palace grew better and better. Every meal had meat and soup. And I had more clothes than I could wear. If I had a headache or fever, imperial physicians would come to treat me. Only that fool remained silent. Day after day, I knew in my heart that no matter how foolish he was, he probably realized I had another man outside, now that he's moved back to his original palace. I'm afraid his days will only get better and better. It's time for me to break it off with him. The Crown Prince needed my hand, calling me his sweetheart and darling. He said irritably, "There's war in the northwest again. If it weren't for winning over that old bastard Han Chongshuan, Her Majesty would never have released the fifth prince. If it were up to me, he should have been left to go mad and die in the cold palace." Han Chongshuan, the greatest warrior of Great Xia. Even an illiterate prostitute like me knew the name of this hero. The Crown Prince had cursed him countless times in private. He was the adopted brother of the late Empress, making him effectively the fifth prince's uncle. The Crown Prince is a petty and narrow-minded man. If he ever becomes emperor, General Han will surely face disaster. If General Han were to die, how heartbroken the people of the Northwest would be. But these matters of state and loyalty are beyond the thoughts of a mere woman like me. All I want now is to hoard more silver coins for security, then coax the Crown Prince into letting me leave the palace and keeping me as his mistress outside. As for the fifth prince, I've long wanted nothing to do with him. After spending some time fooling around with the Crown Prince, I returned to my chambers. The moment I stepped inside, I got quite a fright. All the gifts the Crown Prince gave me have been ruined. Those clothes were all cut to shreds and thrown on the ground. The jewelry and hair ornaments were so damaged they're unrecognizable now. The fifth prince sat nearby, chopping off the head of a wooden figurine with each swing of his knife. My hands trembled as I held those garments. I looked up to meet his gaze, then glanced at the headless wooden figure on the ground. It bore the unmistakable likeness of the crown prince. I was absolutely furious, crying my heart out. My heart aches, I sobbed. What madness possessed you? Do you have any idea how I endured the crown prince's foul breath just to coax these fine treasures from him? I used to envy the crown princess too. After getting close to the crown prince, I actually began to pity her. Imagine, such a pure and noble lady, yet her husband has bad breath. How unbearable. The fifth prince knelt beside me and pulled me tightly into his embrace. He whispered, "Ayao, don't go to him anymore. I'll give you whatever you want. We haven't held each other like this in so very long." I cried even harder, pinching him, hitting him, biting him. "Didn't you say I was beneath you? Didn't you think it was wrong for me to flirt with men? Stay away from me. I don't want anything to do with you." My sobs grew more violent, as if the tears would never stop flowing. Deep down, I already understood the truth. These past days, I deliberately distanced myself from the fifth prince, yet my heart remained just as heavy. I thought we were allies sharing both joy and sorrow. I was the wild grass rooted in the earth. He was the soil that nourished me. Yet when I looked up, he still hung high in the sky. Only I remained, sunk low in the dust. How could this not make me miserable? The fifth prince held me close, kissing away the tears on my face. "I'm sorry, Ayao. I was driven mad with jealousy. Punish me, I'll accept anything." I sobbed quietly, refusing to acknowledge him. He wrapped his arms around me and led me into the inner chamber. Though somehow we ended up tumbling onto the bed, the curtain was drawn, and the fifth prince's voice grew softer and softer, until only I could hear him. The words he spoke grew increasingly improper. "Ayao, don't cry. How about I let you ride me like a little horse, or you could pull my braid, and I'll bark like a puppy. Don't like any of them, then let me kiss." I covered his mouth, blushing with embarrassment, and said, "Stop talking, I forgive you." "All right." After so long without intimacy, under the fifth prince's attentions, my body melted into a puddle. Gazing into his beautiful eyes, I couldn't help but ask curiously, "Are you really foolish or just pretending?" After spending over half a year with him day and night, I still couldn't figure him out. If you were to say he's foolish, yet he loves cleanliness and reading books, but if you were to say he's not foolish, he'd still drool right in front of the empress. The fifth prince kissed my lips and murmured ambiguously, "I'll only be our Yarrow's fool." I was still thinking about how to ditch the crown prince with bad breath, but then he stopped coming to see me. Rumor has it he had a huge fight with the crown princess in the Eastern Palace. That argument revealed a shocking secret. The crown prince is actually impotent. Oh my heavens! Watching the glimmer in the palace maid's eyes, I covered my mouth, afraid I might scream aloud. The new young maid, Crispy Peach, loves nothing more than gossiping all day long. When I hear her name, I always feel my teeth itch, wanting to take a bite. Crisp peaches are good. I don't like soft peaches. Crisp Peach handed me a handful of melon seeds and began to recount palace secrets, as if she knew them like the back of her hand. I munched on the melon seeds, clucking my tongue in continuous amazement. Unable to contain her curiosity, she asked, "Does Zhao Yunyao know the crown prince has this condition?" Crisp Peach replied matter-of-factly, "The crown prince wasn't always impotent. It was our fifth prince who poisoned him." "What? The fifth prince poisoned the crown prince?" I was shocked. Noticing my shocked expression, Crisp Peach said meaningfully, "It was mainly because of you. You went and flirted with the crown prince, and his highness didn't dare get angry at you, so he could only poison the crown prince into impotence." "Ha! I was the one who actually administered the poison. Do you have any idea how much silver his highness paid me for this job?" I dare not listen anymore. This must involve countless secrets. It seems Crispy Peach isn't just an ordinary palace maid. The fifth prince isn't simply mad either. Nothing in the royal family is ever simple. Back at Tianxiang Tower, sisters would even fight over a generous spending man. What lies before them now is the imperial throne. Who could resist such temptation? Kui Dao clicked her tongue and said, "Ah. Every time you sneak out to meet the crown prince, his highness silently carves wooden figures without a word. After finishing, He slices the little wooden figures apart piece by piece. Just watching his expression makes me feel like he crawled straight out of hell. A Buddha's child turned Azura, terrifying, truly terrifying. Azura, I secretly turned my head to glance at the fifth prince. These days he dresses impeccably every day, as if he's regained his former status as the lofty fifth prince. With white jade hairpins adorning his head and clad in dark brocade robes, he appears both noble and elegant. Noticing my gaze, he immediately walked over, slightly bending at the waist as he said, "Madam, you must be hungry, let's eat together." His words carried a hint of foolishness. I casually shelled a few sunflower seeds and tossed them into his mouth. Forget it, who cares if he's truly mad or just pretending? These matters of nobility and royalty are none of our concern. But I never expected that the storm of fighting for the throne would sweep me, a mere nobody, into its chaos. Late at night, the Empress sent her people to drag me to the cunning palace. Both the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess were present, their faces cold, refusing to look at each other. The Empress said impatiently, "Enough, there's no need to make such a fuss over a promiscuous wretch like her. Yun Yao, you too, as the Crown Princess, how can you lack the grace to tolerate others?" I saw a flicker of mocking laughter flash through the Crown Princess's eyes. She lowered her head obediently and said, "Your Majesty's reprimand is justified." Ah, it seems being a royal daughter-in-law isn't easy. The Empress didn't bother saying much more to someone insignificant like me and directly called for attendance. She stared at me and said, "Laro Wu is going to the northwest. You're to go with him and keep a close eye on his every word and action." The Empress ordered me to take poison. And I obeyed without hesitation, if only to spare myself further torment. The Crown Prince gave me a pitying glance before exclaiming angrily, "Mother, if Xiao Yi is merely pretending to be mad, sending him to the northwest is no different from releasing a tiger back into the mountains." The Empress pressed her temples in frustration. "Do you think I don't know that? But Qizhen is useless, he's left us vulnerable. The Imperial Censor and the Minister of Justice are closing in relentlessly in court. Am I supposed to just watch Qizhen die? He's your uncle's only son." I overheard the Crown Prince arguing with the Empress, and only then did I piece together the whole story. Qizhen accidentally killed someone and was arrested by the Ministry of Justice. Both the Ministry of Justice and the Censorate were formerly supporters of the fifth prince. They used this incident as leverage, trying to pressure the Crown Prince's faction into allowing the fifth prince to be sent to the northwest. Qizhen, that name sounds familiar, isn't he that scoundrel who gave me the jade pendant? The Crown Prince muttered, "My cousin too, with our family heirloom jade already in someone else's hands. What's the use of him crying injustice now?" Hearing this, I lowered my eyes meekly and pondered. No wonder Crispy Peach came asking me for that jade pendant the other day, exchanging it for quite a sum of silver. So this is where it comes into play. The Empress, no longer wishing to argue with the Crown Prince, softened her tone and said, "What are you afraid of? You're firmly seated as the Crown Prince now, and your uncle is scheming for you at court. Your father's health is failing, your ascension is imminent. Once the war is over, we'll find any excuse to take that old fool Han Chongshuan's life. Xiao Yi won't just stand by and watch him die, he'll have no choice but to rebel, and if he rebels, we'll have righteous cause to act against him." Isn't it a bit inappropriate to say all this right in front of me? In the Empress's eyes, I might as well already be a dead man. She ordered me to keep watch over the fifth prince after I go to the northwest, sending regular intelligence reports. Otherwise, she wouldn't give me the antidote, leaving me to suffer excruciating torment every month. How could I dare refuse? After all, the fifth prince's life isn't as important as my own. Surprisingly, the Crown Princess kindly saw me out. Along the way, she glanced at me several times. Suddenly, she remarked with indifference, "Do you think we look alike?" Before I could answer, she turned and left. I spread my hands helplessly. Alas, the Crown Prince had slipped me a note. What a pity. I'm illiterate. Back at Danxia Palace, Crisp Peach made me drink a bowl of bitter, astringent medicine. I immediately vomited violently until everything went black. My mind muddled as I fainted. In my half-conscious state, I heard someone weeping hysterically. "Are you blaming me? Is that it? But what could I have done? Could I have snatched the poison right in front of the Empress and the Crown Prince?" Squinting my eyes, I saw it was actually Zhao Yunyao. She was crying hysterically, Her hairpin had even fallen to the ground. Zhao Yunniao confronted Xiao Yi with tears streaming down her face. Choking back sobs, she swayed unsteadily as she cried, "Xiao Yi, have you fallen for her, for my replacement?" Zhao Yunniao's legs gave way, and she began to collapse towards Xiao Yi. To her shock, Xiao Yi sidestepped and dodged her completely. Zhao Yunniao slumped to the ground, laughing at herself with self-mockery. Xiao Yi said coldly, "She's not your substitute, Yunniao. Get up and go back." Hearing these words, my heart felt weightless. I'm not Zhao Yunniao's substitute. How sweet those words sound. Zhao Yunniao wiped away her tears, smoothed her hair, and rose gracefully to her feet. She looked at Xiao Yi and said softly, "I know you still resent me. But Xiao Yi, I never had a choice. I was born to be the crown princess. You used to be so gentle with me, yet now you treat me coldly. I don't blame you. I will make you see that. Compared to this lowly woman, I am the one who truly suits you best." Xiao Yi frowned and replied, "Yunniao, let me say it again, I will handle my own affairs. There's no need for you, a woman, to risk yourself for me. And her name is Zheng Yao. Don't let me hear you insult her again." Zhao Yunniao merely smiled, a hint of something unsettling in her expression. She let out a long sigh and murmured softly, "Can even a Buddha's disciple be swayed by emotions, Xiao Yi? Back then you stubbornly refused to become the crown prince, even insisting on shaving your head to become a monk, and now you've developed worldly desires, seeking revenge, craving women. I'd like to see just how far you two can go." Zhao Yunniao left. The bedchamber fell silent, hearing Xiao Yi's footsteps approaching. I quickly closed my eyes. I felt his hand gently caressing my brows and eyes, with such tenderness. Xiao Yi whispered softly, "Yao, whether it's Qi Zhen or the crown prince, any man who touches you will die. Look at me more, look deeper into my heart. Since you pulled me out from hell, you must stay with me for eternity, enduring tribulations together in this mortal world." His lips met mine, kissing me deeply and lingeringly. Something cold touched my wrist. Only after he left did I notice an additional string of jade beads. They were engraved with Sanskrit characters I couldn't decipher. Kui Dao entered carrying medicine, her face drawn with distress as she said, "Ah, His Highness just made me whip him 10 times. I was startled. Why would he do that?" Crisp Peach fed me the medicine, pursed her lips and said, "He blames himself for not protecting you well enough, which led to the queen poisoning you." I glanced outside and said worriedly, "It's not really his fault, after all. He can hardly protect himself right now. Besides, I didn't actually swallow that poison." Back at Tianxiang Tower, the madam was always worried we might encounter perverted customers. He taught us many life-saving skills. I silently concealed that pill between my fingers, deceiving every watching eye. After much hesitation, I still didn't tell Xiao Yi about this matter. I've decided to become the Empress's spy after all, to prevent her from killing me in desperation. If Xiao Yi finds out later, I can still argue that I was poisoned and had no choice. By then, whether the Empress and Crown Prince win or Xiao Yi prevails, I'll be able to keep my life. Xiao Yi wants to take me to the northwest with him. Before leaving, I asked Kui Dao to take me to do one thing. I told her to take the silver and redeem someone for me at Tianxiang Tower. As for me, perhaps it was the apprehension of nearing home I didn't go over, but hid in the tea house across the street to watch. When Brittle Peach emerged, she was surrounded by a noisy crowd. "Where's Zheng Yao? How did she get so much silver? How is she doing?" 10 barefaced women kept pestering Tsuetao with endless questions. Tsuetao covered her ears, looking utterly distressed. No one could tell who started crying first. "Damn woman, saving up all that silver and not keeping it for yourself. Exactly. What's the point of redeeming us? We're already at this age. Why waste all that money?" The madam pushed the door open and shouted, "Shut your mouths, all of you." The women stopped crying. I never realized they cared about me so much. Back then, they clearly thought keeping me was a waste of money and scolded me all day long. The madam said with a stern face, "Zheng Yao remembered you all and spent so much money to buy your freedom. You lot live properly from now on. Alright, everyone disperse now. Don't keep this young lady waiting in our filthy place any longer." They cried as they handed their belongings to Brittle Peach. Brittle Peach clutched the pile of items and took off running. We sat in the carriage heading northwest. I glanced at those things. There were food and daily necessities, They were all ones I fancied back at Tianxiang Tower, but they couldn't bear to part with them for me. Truth be told, I knew on the day of the auction they were planning to pool their savings to buy my freedom, but how could I possibly accept? They're all over 30 now, without silver to their names. Their futures would be bleak indeed. Fortunately, I escaped disaster and can now redeem them to provide for their old age. Back at Tianxiang Tower, when I was young and naive, I used to call each of them mother. Each time I called them that, I'd get beaten, until eventually I stopped after too many beatings. Only when I grew older did I realize that calling them mother made them feel terrible inside. After all, what mother could bear to see her daughter grow up in a brothel? I packed all those things away and muttered to myself, now I don't have a single coin left. I'll have to find a way to save up again. Crisp Peach peeked in and looked at me thoughtfully, saying, "No wonder His Highness is so fond of you. You're different from the rest of us, you've got a strong human touch about you." I looked at Crisp Peach's round face and asked curiously, "What kind of person are you?" Crispy Peach grinned darkly, "The little demon by the King of Hell's side." I soon learned what those words meant. We traveled day and night to the northwest, enduring countless assassination attempts along the way. I watched as Crispy Peach took many lives with a blade as thin as a cicada's wing, from the mouths of the dead. I learned that Crispy Peach had a resounding name in the martial world. Deadly Little Crispy Peach, I thought to myself. This name is truly resounding. The more people Crispy Peach killed, the brighter her eyes became, the redder her lips grew. She still had that round-faced little girl appearance, yet carried an unmistakable aura of murderous intent. Blood splattered onto my face, the dead person's eyes wide open staring at me. I was terrified into falling seriously ill, running a high fever that lasted for ages. Even in my dreams I was crying and begging people not to kill me. Xiao Yi held me tightly, continuously comforting me. "Yao, be good, open your mouth and take your medicine." I pressed my lips together, crying non-stop. Delirious with fever, I began blaming him. "Why do you have to take me with you? I just want to live a peaceful life. Is that so hard to ask for?" I must have been driven mad, sick to the point of foolishness. I pulled out my hairpin and was about to slash my own face. "It's all because of this face." Xiao Yi held the medicine steadily. Looking at me, I said angrily, "Why didn't you stop me?" I couldn't bear to die anyway." Xiao Yi smiled gently and said, "If you truly find life unbearable, you'd be the first to kill me, never yourself. How does this person know me so well?" I glared at him, tossed aside the hairpin, snatched the medicine bowl, and drank it all in one gulp. Kui Dao's voice drifted in. "Madam, hire me instead, 5,000 taels of silver, and I guarantee His Highness will be thoroughly eliminated." I pinched my empty purse, thinking to myself, "Damn girl, just rub salt in my wound, 5,000 taels, my foot, I don't even have 5 coppers left." Anyway, after all the commotion along the way, we managed to arrive safely in the northwest. As soon as he entered the general's residence, his eyes were met with mourning white everywhere. White lanterns hung from the eaves, and everyone was dressed in white garments. A crowd stood with solemn expressions. Upon seeing Xiao Yi, they all knelt down in unison. I took one look at the situation and immediately knelt down as well. Xiao Yi pulled me up and led me inside. Inside, a memorial altar had been set up for the late empress. Xiao Yi lit 3 sticks of incense and instructed me to kneel and pay my respects. Xiao Yi said softly, "Mother, this is Zheng Yao, my wife." I lit incense and felt many eyes upon me. An elderly general stepped forward and handed me a large golden bracelet. He said kindly, "She's a good girl." Xiao Yi patted my head and said gently, "This is your uncle, General Han." I quickly called out uncle. Kui Dao took me to the backyard. My aunt came forward, took my hand, and cried for a long while, saying Xiao Yi and I had suffered greatly. I followed my aunt in a daze to meet my cousin and younger cousin's sister. Sitting in the room, I stared blankly at the gifts on the table. I glanced around, no one was nearby. Clearing my throat, I whispered quietly, "Uncle, aunt, cousin, younger cousin's sister." After finishing reading it, I felt particularly silly and patted my mouth. I couldn't help but chuckle. Thanks to Xiao Yi, I now have family too. Life in the northwest was quite carefree. My uncle's family were all kind people. I got along particularly well with my cousin Hongying, and we often played together. War has broken out again in the northwest. My aunt went to the temple to pray for protective talismans, distributing them one by one, when it was my turn. I deliberately turned my face away with feigned nonchalance. To my surprise, my aunt took my hand and placed a protective talisman in my palm. I clutched the protective talisman in my hand, staring blankly in a daze. Hong Ying tugged at me to go outside. Come on, let's help cousin take stock of the provisions. With the great battle imminent, nothing could be treated carelessly. All the common folk of Suzhou City were also in a state of high tension. The women sewed garments, bandages, and leather armor. The men crafted defensive tools for the city, forging ironware and bows and arrows. In short, everyone was bustling with activity. All the children were sent to the Sea Iron Hall, where they were looked after by caretakers. Hong Ying's most frequent activity was going to Sea Iron Hall to teach martial arts to the children. Xiao Yi always left early and returned late. When he left, I hadn't yet risen from bed. By the time he returned, I was already fast asleep. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and the space beside me is still empty. General Han is always in a hurry. Auntie mentioned that when he's busy, he sometimes doesn't even get a proper meal. During the day, Hong Ying and I help out at the Sea Iron Hall, where I heard that every household in Suzhou has set up a longevity tablet for General Han. The people of Suzhou recognize only General Han, not the Emperor. I couldn't help but recall the Crown Prince telling the Empress that General Han would be executed once the war ended. At that time, my heart was filled with sorrow and regret, but now, it aches with pain and anxiety. Late at night, I fought back drowsiness to stay awake. Xiao Yi entered quietly on tiptoe and froze momentarily when he saw me waiting for him at the table. I pulled him to sit down and handed him the note the Crown Prince had slipped me. Guiltily, I explained. The Crown Prince gave this to me. I can't read, tell me what it says. Also, the Empress poisoned me. She made me become a spy, ordering me to write monthly reports delivered to the silk shop north of the city. But I never wrote anything. Xiao Yi glanced at the words on the paper and said casually, the Crown Prince said that when your life is in danger, go find Deputy General Lin. He will escort you back to the capital. Deputy General Lin, isn't that the right-hand man of General Han? So he's actually the Crown Prince's man, I hurriedly said. Then you must go inform Uncle immediately. Xiao Yi pressed me onto his lap and calmly said, we've long known that Deputy General Lin is the Crown Prince's man. When it comes to matters of national importance, he won't waver. We'll deal with him after the battle with the barbarians is over. I immediately felt relieved, then glanced at the note again. There's another line written here, what does it say? Xiao Yi looked at me. My gut told me it definitely wasn't anything good, that lecherous Crown Prince probably wrote some indecent poetry or suggestive lyrics. Sure enough, the next moment Xiao Yi slowly recited, awaiting your return, we shall revel in the pleasures of intimacy, experiencing all earthly delights together. Having grown up in a brothel, I should have heard every kind of vulgar talk imaginable. Yet when Xiao Yi recited it in that particular tone, I inexplicably felt my face burn with embarrassment. Xiao Yi placed the note on the table and added, the medicinal soup you drank after returning that day was the antidote. Later, when Suetao said you weren't actually poisoned, I felt a wave of relief. At this point, he smiled and said, Ayao always has a way to protect herself, constantly securing a retreat path for herself. That's good. Hearing this, I found it even stranger. He was better off pretending to be clueless. At least back then he spoke little. I pretended to be sleepy. Urging him to go to bed, seizing the moment he turned away, I tore that note to shreds. Yet when Xiao Yi returned from his shower, without a word he pressed himself against me. He had me all worked up with nowhere to go. Xiao Yi deliberately kept me hanging, murmuring dreamily, Ayao, you're always ready to leave me at any moment, aren't you? I looped my arms around his neck to coax him. How could that be? You're so devastatingly handsome, and your status is so noble. If you succeed in your rebellion and become emperor someday, you'd probably make me your honored consort too. How could I bear to leave? I wound myself around him. Xiao Yi usually lets me have my way in these matters, but that night, he really wore me out. It was pleasurable, but utterly exhausting. I cursed the lustful Crown Prince in my heart. What a wicked troublemaker. After the Northwestern War ended, life finally became lively again. Xiao Yi had free time now, teaching me to read and write, but I was just a blockhead. Today I'd learn 5 characters, tomorrow I'd forget 3. Xiao Yi was also patient, teaching me slowly. I went to the silk shop to deliver intelligence. Casually extending my hand, the shopkeeper handed me a bag of silver with a pained expression, unable to resist asking, "Miss, your expenses are really a bit excessive." I glared at him. Enough with the nonsense. Do you think it's easy for me to gather intelligence in the general's mansion? Don't I have to grease a few palms? The innkeeper fell silent, his face growing even more sorrowful. The Empress has also written to me. I unfolded the letter. It was filled entirely with scolding. Only 5 characters per sheet of paper. Can't you practice your calligraphy properly? Do you think sending letters is easy? Nobody cares how many bowls of rice Xiao Yi eats in a day. And nobody cares whether you two had a fight. If you keep writing such nonsense, don't expect to get next month's antidote. Take it or leave it. Who cares? I pouted, opening another letter. This one was from the Crown Prince. More of those lewd and flowery verses. I burned it in advance to save Xiao Yi from seeing it and forcing me to write him love letters again. When I got back, I saw many people coming out of Xiao Yi's study. I casually asked Crispy Peach, "What's he been busy with lately?" "So many unfamiliar faces have been coming and going." Crispy Peach replied matter-of-factly, "Busy plotting a rebellion, of course." I was startled and lowered my voice, saying, "You just blurted it out so candidly." Crisp Peach took out some melon seeds and started cracking them, nodding as she said, "His Highness said we shouldn't hide anything from you, no matter what you ask." After finishing, she added with an air of mystery, "But you just refuse to ask anything, my lady. I can see it. If His Highness succeeds in his rebellion, you'll grab your bundle and run off without a second thought." I forced an awkward laugh. What nonsense. I'd be overjoyed if he gained wealth and status. I'd love to bask in his good fortune. Crispy Peach let out a yelp, stepping back a bit and raising her voice. Then what were all those disguised tools hidden under the madam's bed for? And those fake household registrations and travel passes, what were they used for? Damn it all. Crispy Peach stuck her tongue out at me, then turned and ran off. I turned my head and saw Xiao Yi standing at the study door. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to walk over. "Xiao Yi, let me explain." Xiao Yi took my hand and said gently, "No rush, take your time making it up. I have time to spare for you today." Yes. I was planning to make a run for it, but I couldn't just openly admit it like that. I curled up in Xiao Yi's arms, sniffling and sobbing. I started by recounting how we first met. Then I took his hand and reminisced about our difficult days together in the cold palace. I felt the emotions had been sufficiently built up before I finally got to the main point. If your rebellion succeeds and you become emperor, you'll have countless beauties in your harem. Whether it's the most noble lady or the most talented one, they'll all be daughters of powerful aristocratic families. But me, I'm just a brothel prostitute. Even if you remember our past affection and make me a noble consort, I'd still be looked down upon by others. If I had to spend my days in the palace fetching foot-washing water for others, I'd rather take the money and disappear far away. I've cried enough. So I grabbed Xiao Yi's sleeve to wipe away my tears. Anyway, everything's been laid out. Whether he wants to kill me or slice me to pieces, it's up to him now. Xiao Yi held a cup of tea to my lips, feeding me a few sips, then asked curiously, "Who told you that you'd have to fetch foot-washing water for others?" I cleared my throat and spoke honestly. When I left the palace, Zhao Yunniao threatened me, saying she wanted to prove herself, that she deserves you more than I do. Anyway, these days I keep having dreams where I'm fetching her foot-washing water. Speaking of dreams, that wave of grievance washed over me again. In the dream, someone framed me, but you wouldn't listen to my explanation and called me a venomous woman. They're going to drag me out and beat me with boards, letting others spit on me. Xiao Yi said thoughtfully, "No wonder you've been waking up suddenly these past few nights, pinching, biting, and hitting me. So that's why." Looking at the bite marks on his neck, I considerately tugged his collar up a little higher. The thought of Xiao Yi being slept with by countless women in the future still makes me cherish him a bit. I kissed his cheek and held his hand. Xiao Yi glanced at me and said, "Though this is a study, well, there's really no reason why not. I swear, that wasn't my intention at all in the beginning." But he got up to close the door, stood before me, leaned against the desk, and began undressing with deliberate slowness. Xiao Yi had always been meticulous about his attire. He never wore those flashy, gaudy styles. Plain-colored robes made him appear even more noble and refined. Sometimes, when he remained silent and lost in thought, he resembled a piece of jade. It can be admired from afar but not profaned. Yet now, he gazes at me and kisses my hand. He takes a step forward, trapping me in the wide chair. I feel my breath growing scorching hot. He was softly calling my name. Ah Yao, Ah Yao, each call softer than the last, yet each one struck with increasing weight. My thoughts scattered aimlessly, drifting to unknown places. The turmoil lasted until nightfall. When I awoke, I found myself already lying in bed. Xiao Yi noticed my awakening and came over to stroke my hair. I pressed my face against his palm, and somehow, tears began to fall. I whispered softly, Xiao Yi, let's stop here. Here, everything is just right. Looking back, it will all be sweet memories. Xiao Yi responded, all right. Hearing this, I bolted upright in an instant, fuming as I spat out, all right, what's so all right about this? Where exactly is this all right? Xiao Yi then laughed, Ayao, you're not suited for those melancholic, sentimental theatrics. I thought bitterly to myself, who is then? Zhao Yunyao, she's still the crown princess, she wouldn't act with him. Can't I just imitate the talented women in books and indulge in some melancholy? Xiao Yi presented me with a box and said earnestly, in 3 days, I must return to the capital. These are some land deeds and property titles from Jiangnan. If I fail, Kui Dao will take you back to Jiangnan to settle down, ensuring you live a worry-free life. So, I didn't need to run away on my own. Xiao Yi had already prepared everything for me. This time, I really cried. Tears streamed down messily. Without a shred of grace, I sniffled and said, fine, but if you die, I won't remain a widow for you. Xiao Yi gave a quiet hum of acknowledgement. I asked him, so will you win? Xiao Yi said, hard to say. We fell silent, quietly leaning against each other. After a while, I told Xiao Yi, my mother was a prostitute. I never met her. She died after giving birth to me. I grew up in Tianxiang Tower. Aside from seeing too many disgusting men, I didn't suffer much hardship. The women in the tower all had hard lives, though they often fought among themselves. When real trouble came, they helped each other. Anyway, that's me, just an utterly ordinary person. Xiao Yi, what about you? Your story must be quite fascinating. Xiao Yi's perspective. My story isn't fascinating at all. My mother came from a humble family background, cautious, virtuous, and gentle in character. She often said that her proudest achievement was giving birth to me. From childhood, I possessed a photographic memory and exceptional intelligence. At age 3, a master declared I had an affinity for Buddhism. Later, when I fell gravely ill, my mother endured her sorrow and allowed me to study Buddhist teachings under that master. Learning and learning, I only feel that everything in this world is like a fleeting dream. What is real, what is false, gaining and losing are but ordinary matters. My heart and my being, all empty. Father was originally an idle prince, but the royal infighting became too intense. Instead, it allowed him to seize the opportunity and ascend to the throne. Mother became the empress. I became the legitimate heir to the throne. The grand tutor said my greatest flaw was being excessively kind-hearted. Zhao Yunyao bitterly asked me, do you even have a heart? You treat me well only because I'm your betrothed, not because you love me. With a sorrowful expression, Mother said, the imperial consort's family is powerful, and the 5 great clans are watching like tigers eyeing their prey. They won't let you become the crown prince. Ai, I can't help you, I've failed you. She was swept into the whirlpool, like a leaf tossed by the wind. Mother screamed in anguish, Xiao Yi, wake up. In this turbulent world, no one can escape the trials of fire and oil. No one can escape. I knelt on the ground, watching as my mother was dragged away. The blood burned like raging fire, scorching my mind into delirium. I had explicitly warned Mother not to go to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The imperial consort had laid a trap to frame her for defiling the imperial harem. Why did she have to go? Why knowingly walk into a trap? Mother wept as she said, I told you, my lifelong pride is you. Xiao Yi, if you won't fight, I'll force you to. My life has been as dim as dust, living in shadows unseen by light, overshadowed by the imperial consort, burned by jealousy. You must fight for me. Go, claim the throne, send that woman and her son into the endless inferno. Reading the letter Mother left behind, I finally understood how bitterly she had lived. Father adored the noble daughter of the Qi family, but tormented by his lowly status, could never marry her. Mother bore some resemblance to a royal consort, which caught father's eye. When she married father, her heart was filled with astonishment and excitement. She couldn't believe that an ordinary woman like her could become a princess consort. Mother performed her duties as princess consort with trembling caution, willing to sacrifice everything she had. But when she saw the imperial concubine enter the palace, she knew she had been living in a false lie. The concubine wore a bright red wedding dress and a dazzling crown, making her appear all the more insignificant. She was never the chosen princess, nor the noble queen. She was still that dull and unremarkable Zhong Wunyang from her maiden days. Fifth Lady Zhong has gone mad. She sits in the courtyard, staring at the cracks crisscrossing the bluestone slabs. Her days in the palace were lonely. Yet even when her father neglected her and the imperial concubine oppressed her, none dared show her disrespect. Because she has a son like me, I said to my mother, "Mother, you're not happy in the palace, let's leave. Uncle is now stationed in the northwest. I'll ask father to grant me Suzhou as my fief. Next year when I'm enfeoffed as a prince, I'll take you to the northwest." "All right." Mother gazed at me with a vacant smile. "Aye, even you want to abandon me, after I go to the northwest? Are you planning to become a monk?" As she spoke, she suddenly screamed hysterically, "You're meant to be the crown prince, to become the emperor. Why won't you fight for it?" Mother wept. "How I regret it. Why did I ever let you study Buddhism?" At the time, I simply thought the lonely life in the palace had suffocated her. Until she passed away, only then did I realize I had failed a mother's heart. I failed to live up to Zhong Wunyang's pride. A foul breath clogged my chest, clouding my mind. Indeed, I was lost in a daze of madness for a time, until Zheng Yao appeared. She stood in the prison cell dressed in peach-colored robes, her lips passionately red, her eyes clear and
First, Zhao Yunyao sneered coldly. "I've exhausted all my efforts, endured humiliation, and used the Zhao family's power just to secure the position of imperial noble consort. How dare you, who've given nothing, sit on the throne of empress, to be the mother of the nation? Are you even worthy? Whether I'm worthy or not isn't for you to say." I scrambled up from the ground and shoved her back. "If you're unhappy, go take it out on Xiao Yi. Why pick on me? She wants to slap me. How could I let her get away with that? Fighting, I'm not afraid of that." In the end, we had a proper, full-on fight. Zhao Yunyao limped away, swearing she'd make me pay for this. I shouted at her, "I'll be waiting for you." Xiao Yi stood by the side, seemingly afraid to even breathe. I walked over and kicked him. "This is all your romantic mess." When it came to Zhao Yunyao becoming the imperial noble consort, Xiao Yi had asked for my opinion. I don't really mind either way, as a proud daughter of heaven who's always held herself above others. She couldn't possibly return to being a widow after the crown prince's death. That would truly be driving Zhao Yunyao to her death. After all, she genuinely invested substantial resources to support Xiao Yi's power grab. Ungrateful deeds. We simply cannot do such things. Later events proved me right. Zhao Yunyao managed this imperial harem with perfect discipline. I admire her immensely. Only, the people in this palace are growing stranger by the day. Lady Ning is the eldest daughter of the Minister of Rights, and it's said she faints from nervousness whenever she meets someone. She simply hid herself away in the palace. Noble consort Qing and noble consort Ping were bosom friends, the kind who slept together and bathed together. Crisp Peach listened, then eagerly went off to gather information. She glanced at me. I immediately covered my ears. "I won't listen." "Don't say it." Crisp Peach looked regretful. Among the newly arrived palace ladies, Consort Jing held the noblest status. She was a cynic. She could write 800 satirical poems cursing people in a single day. She curses men and women alike. No one in the entire capital dared to marry her, so she simply entered the palace. Crisp Peach remarked, "This palace is practically becoming a refuge for noble women of the capital." Zhao Yunyao wouldn't let me off either, summoning me every few days to attend her lectures. She said with exasperation, "You're the empress. Second to none but the emperor. Don't you want to use your power to accomplish something?" "I do." I voiced my thoughts. "I want to shut down all the brothels in the realm, so women will no longer be bought and sold by fathers and brothers, nor forced into degrading professions." Zhao Yunyao listened, scrutinized me for a few moments, but said nothing. After a while, she came back to scold me again. At the time, I was playing dice with Xiao Yi, losing every single round. I walked out of Mingda Hall with my face painted like a calico cat. Zhao Yunniao took a deep breath after looking at me and started scolding. She quoted classics and scolded without repeating a single word, not that I could understand any of it anyway. After finishing, Zhao Yunniao asked me, "Have you even thought about how to do it? You just threw me a line and never mentioned it again. Zheng Yao, you're really making this Empress thing too comfortable for yourself." I thought about it, but couldn't come up with anything. After all, I still haven't even learned all the characters yet. With no experience and no education, how could you expect me to devise any brilliant strategies? I did ask Xiao Yi about it though. Xiao Yi said this matter couldn't be resolved just by talking. The entrenched malpractices ran too deep and required gradual reform. Seeing my blank expression, Zhao Yunniao started scolding me again. Upon returning, I immediately issued an edict summoning her arch-rival Shangguan Jingshu to serve as a palace official. From then on, those two quarreled with each other every single day. After all the bickering, they actually managed to argue out a brilliant strategy. I stamped the Empress's seal and had Shangguan Jingshu and Zhao Yunniao carry it out. Xiao Yi, noticing my smug expression, laughed and asked, "What's got you so pleased?" I waved the Empress's seal with a grin and said, "I may be ignorant, but I can have knowledgeable people do the work." Ever since Jingshu arrived, Zhao Yunniao has been full of energy, opening schools for women and abolishing low-status registries. She hasn't even had time to scold me anymore. Xiao Yi praised me a couple of times, then suddenly changed the subject. "I heard you're going to the Shangguan family's place outside the palace tomorrow." I pretended to answer naturally, "Yes, Jingshu's birthday. She invited me to the banquet." Xiao Yi also spoke very naturally. "I see. I thought you wanted to see her younger brother. He's long been reputed as the capital's #1 young master. Since you don't have that intention, I'll just send him out of the capital to handle some business for me. This Empress's seal is so heavy. I don't want to hold it anymore." 15 extra chapter. Xiao Shizi stood by the wall, glancing at the Emperor who was still reading letters in the dead of night. He'd been turning them over all night long, and of all things, Her Majesty had only sent this one letter. The Emperor had practically memorized every petal of it. With Her Majesty away, the palace feels so desolate and quiet. The Mingda Hall remained silent the entire day, not just His Majesty. Even he felt lonely. Her Majesty went northwest to visit General Hongying, who's with child, but they say she's due to return soon. A heavy snow happened to fall, making the roads difficult to traverse and causing delays. He entered palace service late and had never seen how the Emperor looked in earlier days. He'd only heard that when His Majesty was still a prince, he'd been aloof and unapproachable. But after he began serving in Mingda Hall, all day long, I see His Majesty and Her Highness clinging to each other. Somehow, the two of them just ended up stuck together, reading books side by side, drinking water cheek to cheek, even feeding each other bite by bite during meals. Little Shizzy found it all rather sickening. But during Her Majesty's absence, the Emperor has truly become like a jade statue, hollow and empty, as if devoid of a heart, yet he attends to state affairs with diligence. A reprimand from an official could make one wish for immediate death, yet when he had nothing to do, he would sometimes go look at the Empress's clothes, other times touch her jewelry. Even Consort Zhao couldn't sit still anymore. She came to ask several times when Her Majesty would return. Consort Zhao said, "Does she think I've assigned her too much homework and doesn't want to return? Your Majesty, write to her and say I'll reduce some of her assignments so she can come back sooner." Minister Shangguan also listlessly sighed, lacking enthusiasm as he lamented, This year's Tanhua scholar is so exceptionally handsome. What a pity the consort isn't here to appreciate him with me, of course." These words were spoken behind the Emperor's back. Loneliness weighed heavily. Xiao Shizi yawned, never before finding the palace nights so interminably long. A voice sounded beyond the door. "Xiao Yi, I'm back." He watched as the Emperor, like a shadow, darted out in an instant. Xiao Shizi hurriedly followed after them. The moment he stepped out, he saw Her Majesty clinging to His Majesty's body, the two locked in an inseparable embrace. He silently retreated and instructed servants to prepare hot water. Good heavens, at last, I no longer have to stay up night after night keeping the Emperor company. The end.